the box that moved on its own. Evan walked through the narrow, noisy lanes of the tech market. Neon signs blinked in strange languages, and voices shouted out deals in every direction. But Evan wasn't looking for anything special. He just wanted something simple, something quiet, maybe a smart pet. He had seen ads about them. Robots shaped like cats or birds that could talk, follow you, even learn tricks. Something like that would help with the loneliness. He turned into a small booth at the edge of the market. The sign read, "Discount. Smart units, final sale." Behind the dusty counter stood a tall man with a hood. He didn't smile. His voice was rough when he spoke. "You want smart pet? I got one. Top model. Little glitchy, so it's cheap. No refunds." Evan looked at the crate. It was black, sealed, and had a glowing lock on the front. There were no holes for air, no screens, nothing to suggest what was inside. Just a small label. Type X. Organic Linked Smart Companion. "How much?" Evan asked. 300 credits. That was too cheap. Most smart pets cost 5 times more. But something about the box made Evan curious. He scanned the crate with his wrist device. No dangerous signals. No weapons. Just faint life signs. Life signs? "Is this thing alive?" Evan asked, his voice tight. The seller shrugged. "It moves. It listens. Feels real. You'll like it." Evan hesitated. Then with a sigh, he transferred the credits. The man smiled for the first time. Pleasure doing business. Evan carried the crate back to his apartment. It was heavy, but not like metal. It felt uneven. Soft in some places. Almost like something inside was pressing against the walls. At home, he placed it on the floor. His AI assistant pinged. "Unknown biosignature detected. Do you wish to scan?" Evan ignored it for now. He knelt beside the crate. The glowing lock blinked red. He pressed his hand against the sensor. The crate made a soft click, and then it moved. The crate shuddered. Something inside pushed hard against the top. Evan backed away. The lock turned green. The lid slowly opened. What he saw was not a pet. A girl. Curled up. Thin arms covering her head. Pale blue skin, silver white hair, glowing marks on her shoulders. She wore a thin suit that looked more like rags. Her back had faint bruises. She was shaking. Her eyes, large and purple, looked at him with pure fear. Evan froze. She wasn't some android. She wasn't a robot. She was real, flesh and blood, breathing fast, and terrified. The girl tried to speak, but no words came. She crawled to the corner of the crate and bowed her head low like she was waiting for a command or punishment. I'm not going to hurt you," Evan said quietly. She didn't move. "Can you understand me?" he asked. No reply, just the sound of her shallow breathing. He opened the crate fully. The girl flinched. He raised his hand slowly. "It's okay. You're safe now. I bought you, yes, but..." He paused. That word felt wrong now. Bought. Evan looked closer. Her arms had faint tattoos, numbers, serial codes. Her neck had a metal collar, locked shut with alien tech. A blinking red light blinked slowly. She wasn't a pet. She was owned. And now, she was his responsibility. He stood up and grabbed a towel. He slowly placed it in front of the crate. "Here, you must be cold." The girl didn't take it. After a long moment, Evan stepped back. "I'll wait. You come out when you're ready." He sat on the floor watching her. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, the girl reached out, slow, trembling, and touched the towel. She pulled it to her chest. Evan smiled softly. It was a start. He didn't know who she was, or where she came from, or why someone had sealed her in a smart pet crate like she was nothing, but he knew one thing already. This wasn't going to be easy. The next morning, Evan stood by the kitchen counter, pouring a bowl of synth oats and warm nutrient milk. He glanced toward the living room where the alien girl still sat on the floor, wrapped in the towel like it was armor. She hadn't said a word. She hadn't even moved much. He placed the bowl on the table and spoke gently. "This is food. You can eat it. You're safe now." The girl looked at the bowl, then back at him. No reaction. Evan sat across the table. He picked up a spoon and took a bite from his own bowl. Then he nodded toward hers. But she didn't move. Her hands stayed, clutched tightly around the towel. Her eyes were wide, watchful, almost like prey expecting a trap. Then, very slowly, she crawled toward the bowl, but not to eat. She lowered her face toward it, like an animal. She didn't use the spoon. She sniffed the food, then pulled back sharply as if she'd done something wrong. "It's okay," Evan said, softer now. "It's not poison. You can eat it, I promise." Still, she didn't touch the food. Instead, she looked at him. Her lips moved. One broken word came out. "Permission?" The sound was so small, Evan almost missed it. But it shattered something. In his heart. She was waiting for permission to eat. His throat tightened. He nodded quickly. "Yes, you have permission. You don't ever need to ask me to eat. Never." The girl slowly picked up the spoon with 2 fingers, like she had never held one before. Her grip was wrong, clumsy. She scooped too much and spilled half of it back into the bowl. She flinched like she expected a hit. Evan didn't move. She tried again. This time she got it to her mouth. She chewed once, twice, then froze. Her eyes widened. It was her first warm meal, maybe ever. She started to eat more quickly now. Too quickly. She choked. Coughing hard, she dropped the spoon and tried to back away from the table. She was gasping, panicking. Evan rushed over and handed her a glass of water. "It's okay. It's just too fast. Take it slow." She stared at the glass like it was another puzzle. Then she drank. Carefully. After a few minutes, the shaking stopped. She went back to the bowl, slower this time. She finished every bite. Evan sat down across from her. He gave a small smile. "You're doing great." The girl didn't respond. But then, after a long pause, she placed the spoon down and bowed her head. "Thank you," she whispered. "Not just for the food, for treating her like a person." Evan felt his chest tighten again. "What's your name?" he asked. She blinked. She hesitated like no one had asked her before, or maybe like she had forgotten. Then, very softly, she said it. "Leary." Evan nodded. "Leary, that's a nice name." She looked confused. "You think it is?" "Yes," Evan said. "It's yours. That makes it special." Silence fell between them, but it wasn't cold, not anymore. Then Evan's wristband beeped, warning, unknown tracking signal detected. He frowned and checked it. There was a low-frequency ping coming from somewhere nearby. Inside the apartment, from Leary. She noticed his expression. Her body tensed again. "What is it?" he asked her. She didn't answer. But she lowered her head and tapped the collar around her neck. Evan stared at it. The red light on it blinked again. Slow. Steady. A signal. Someone might be tracking her. And that meant they could be coming. Evan stared at the blinking red light on the alien girl's collar. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, dangerous. He reached for his wrist device and quickly scanned the signal. Transmitting. Encrypted frequency. Unknown source detected. Leary. Sat perfectly still, her eyes on the floor. She wasn't surprised. "You knew," Evan said. "You knew someone was tracking you." She nodded once. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her lips trembled. "You bought me. I didn't know if you cared." Evan felt the words hit deep. "I'm not like the others," he said, "and no one's taking you from here. But even as he said it, his heart beat faster. Someone was coming. He opened a private network channel and tried to jam the signal. But the encryption was unlike anything he'd seen before. Not military, not commercial. Something off the books. Then came the knock. 3 sharp bangs on the door. Evan froze. Leary's body shrank down again like her instincts had taken over. She backed into the shadows of the room, barely breathing. The knock came again. Then a voice flat and cold. "This is the Interstellar Regulatory Division. We're here for a classified object illegally purchased on the open market. Please cooperate." Evan stayed silent. "We have records of a Type X smart unit sold here 14 hours ago. That unit is not authorized for civilian ownership. It must be returned for deactivation," Leary whispered from the corner. "Don't let them take me. Please." Evan's mind raced. The Interstellar Regulatory Division didn't exist on any official database. It was a cover name. Whoever they weren't here to help her. They were here to erase her. He walked to the door and cracked it open slightly. 2 men stood outside. Black suits, no visible rank, no ID. One of them wore a small earpiece. The other had a handheld scanner that was beeping steadily. The man with the scanner smiled. "You have something that doesn't belong to you." Evan forced a nervous laugh. "You mean the pet box? It was broken. I threw it out. Nothing inside." The man's smile dropped. "Lying is a Class C obstruction. We will search the premises." Evan blocked the door with his body. "Not without a warrant." The second man spoke into his earpiece. Then he looked up coldly. "We have authority. Move." Evan slammed the door shut and locked it. Alarms blared. His home AI spoke. "Security override requested. Hostile breach imminent." He ran to Leary and grabbed her hand. "Come with me now." She didn't ask questions. She followed him down the hallway as metal pounding echoed behind them. Evan opened a hidden panel under the kitchen counter. An old escape hatch from when this place was part of a smuggler's route. They slid inside. Evan pressed the close switch. Just in time. A second later, the front door exploded open. Dust fell around them in the dark. Leary was shaking, her hand still in his. "Why do they want you so badly?" Evan whispered. Leary didn't answer at first. Then she said one word. "Loose." "What do you mean?" She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "I wasn't supposed to think. I was supposed to obey, but something broke inside me. I didn't respond to orders anymore. So they locked me in the box." Evan felt like the floor had dropped out beneath him. She wasn't just any alien. She was a slave bred to obey, and now she was broken or free depending on how you looked at it. And to the ones who made her, that made her dangerous. The crawl tunnel was tight and cold. Metal pipes lined the walls. Evan and Leary moved. Slowly through the shadows, the air thick with old dust and silence. Every now and then they heard footsteps above. Boots, heavy and sharp. Leary kept her head low. Her glowing eyes dimmed like she was trying to hide even that small light. They reached a maintenance hatch. Evan pushed it open and stepped into an old storage room deep under the building. Broken furniture, wires, and crates were scattered everywhere. Here, finally, they were safe. For now. Evan sat down, breathing hard. "We can't go back. They're not going to stop." Leary stood still in the corner, silent. He looked at her. "You said you were made to obey. What do you mean?" She hesitated. Then she walked forward and slowly sat down in front of him. "My kind was grown in a lab, not born. We were made, not to fight. Not to think, just to serve." Her voice shook, but she kept talking. "There were thousands of us, each given a collar like this one." She touched the metal ring around her neck. "When someone used the command tone, we had to listen, even if it hurt, even if it killed us." Evan clenched his fists. "And you were sold." "As a smart pet?" he asked. She nodded. "The collar turns us into whatever the buyer wants. A helper. A cleaner, a pet, a slave. Her voice grew quieter. I followed every order. I smiled when told. I danced when asked. Until something inside me stopped responding. You resisted? I didn't mean to, she said. It just happened. One day I was told to kneel, and I didn't. I wanted to, but my legs stayed still. They said I was defective. They shut me down, packed me in a crate. Evan's voice cracked. They threw you away. Laeri nodded. But you didn't. There was a silence between them, deep and heavy. Evan leaned forward. We're going to get that collar off you, and we're going to stop them. All of them. But Laeri looked away. It's not that simple. The collar isn't just metal. It's inside me too. Wires, signals, control paths in my brain. If someone uses the right voice frequency, I still react. I can't stop it. You mean they can still control you? Yes, even now. That hit Evan like a punch. She was still a prisoner inside her own mind. Suddenly, his wrist device buzzed. Incoming file. Hidden folder unlocked. It was the scanner log from earlier. The crate's internal data. Evan hadn't opened it before. He accessed the file now. Inside were audio files, video logs, dozens of them. He played one, a voice. Spoke, flat and mechanical. Unit X47B shows irregularity in obedience circuit. Neural correction failed. Recommend decommissioning and cryo-storage. Another file. Note. Subject shows signs of independent thought. Memory wipe unsuccessful. Marked for permanent lockbox. Evan's jaw tightened. They didn't just own her. They feared her. And maybe they feared what others like her might become if they ever broke free too. Evan looked up. You're not broken, Laeri. You're alive. You think. You feel. That's not a defect. That's what makes you real. Her eyes welled with soft tears, but she didn't cry. She simply nodded. He stood up and went to an old workbench. Found tools, wires, a power node. He came back and knelt beside her. We're going to shut that collar off. And then, we're going to burn down the place that made it. Laeri smiled for the first time. A small, weak smile. But it was real. Inside the dark, dusty storage room, Evan connected wires from the old bench to his toolkit. Sparks flew. The collar around Laeri's neck hummed with energy, but still blinked red. The control signal was buried deep inside her nervous system. Half machine, half flesh. This isn't just tech, he said, frustrated. They made it to trap you from the inside. Laeri sat calmly, not moving. I can feel it. It listens to their voice, not mine. Evan looked at her. Then we make sure they never speak to you again. She tilted her head. How? He turned the cracked screen on the workbench. A map lit up. The closest spaceport, 50 kilometers away. On the screen was also a stolen access key from one of the fake agents. Evan had grabbed it just before they broke into his home. We use this key to get through the first scan layer. Then we go off-world, Evan explained. There's a station in the neutral zone. No ID checks, no slave laws, no collars. Laeri blinked. Will they let me stay there? Not they. We'll make them. You deserve to be free. Her voice softened. Why are you helping me this much? Evan paused. He didn't have a clear answer. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe anger. Or maybe when he looked at her, he didn't see an alien anymore. He saw a person who had never been treated like one. Because someone should have helped you long ago, he finally said. Laeri's expression changed, confused, touched. Like she was feeling something she didn't even have a word for, but their moment was broken by the low growl of engines above. Drones. They had found the building. We have to go. Now. Later that night, they reached an abandoned hover truck buried under old tarps. Evan hotwired it while Laeri kept watch. She wore human clothes now, a loose hoodie and old pants, nothing special. But to Evan, it was the first time she looked like she belonged in the world, not locked inside it. As they drove, Leary stared out the window. Evan? Yeah? She hesitated. What do humans do when they're free? He glanced at her. They live, they laugh, they mess up and try again, they choose. She was quiet for a while. I want to learn that. He smiled. You will. Hours. Later, near the edge of the spaceport zone, Evan pulled the hover truck into a hidden path near the maintenance tunnels. The place was crawling with scanners and guards, but their stolen pass might work, if they moved quickly. Leary suddenly grabbed his arm. I remember something, she whispered. From the lab. He looked at her. What is it? There were others like me. They weren't ready yet, still in tanks, growing, but they were made the same way. Obedient, silent, scared. Evan felt his heart drop. How many? Hundreds, she said. And they said more were coming. Evan looked at the spaceport. The plan was simple, escape. But now, he knew the truth. Leary wasn't the only one. If they ran now, they could be safe. But if they stayed, they could expose everything. The system, the labs, the slavery. He looked back at her. We're not just going to run anymore. Leary stared at him, unsure. We're going to burn them down. The stars above the spaceport blinked quietly, like nothing was wrong. But inside the terminal's underground access zone, everything was falling apart. Evan gripped Leary's hand tightly as they walked through the shadows of the cargo tunnels. Alarms hadn't gone off yet, but the scanners were active. Their stolen clearance badge had worked at the first gate, but it wouldn't last long. They had maybe 10 minutes. No more. Leary stayed close, her hood pulled low. She moved silently, like someone trained to disappear. But Evan could feel her fear through the way she squeezed his hand, just enough to not get left behind. They passed an old maintenance worker asleep in a chair, past crates marked for off-world trade, past a customs bot scanning for biorisk. Finally, they reached the internal checkpoint, a long white hallway, 2 guards at the end, a tall scanner gate glowing blue in the middle. Leary froze. That's a neural gate, she whispered. It reads inside the mind. If I pass through, it will feel my chip. Evan's heart pounded. We can't turn back now. He looked around. A janitor cart stood nearby, filled with bags, tools, and a box of coolant packets. He had an idea. Get inside that crate, he whispered. I'll push it through. Leary hesitated, but then without a word, she climbed inside and shut the lid behind her. Evan placed the stolen ID badge on his wrist, took a deep breath, and began rolling the cart toward the gate. One of the guards raised a hand. Clearance? Evan showed the badge. Cold chain delivery, fragile unit for outer ring shipment. The guard scanned it. A beep, then a pause. Too long. The guard narrowed his eyes. This ID is old. Where'd you get it? Evan smiled weakly. Look, buddy, if the package melts, I'm fired. You want to explain to the client? The second guard waved them through. Let him go. Low priority. Evan pushed forward, trying to breathe normally. The moment they passed through the gate, the scanner beeped again. Neural signal detected. Bio slave code 0x47B. Alert. System override in progress. The crate shook. From inside, Leary screamed. Evan dropped everything and yanked open the lid. She was thrashing, eyes glowing bright red, pupils wide. Locked in terror, her voice had changed. Flat. Robotic. Awaiting command, she whispered. No, Evan said, grabbing her shoulders. Leary, listen to me. It's not real. You're free. You're not their machine. Her body fought back. Her hand rose, to strike him, but Evan didn't move. Instead, he leaned closer and said softly, You're more than what they made. You. I know you. I see you. Leary blinked. Just once, then twice. Her glowing eyes flickered. The red dimmed. Her breathing slowed. She collapsed into his arms. The guards shouted behind them. Hey, on the ground, now! But Evan was already running. He carried her through the emergency tunnel exit, his legs burning, alarms blaring behind them. Down the corridor, around the corner, into a docked freighter's open ramp. The ship's AI spoke. Unauthorized boarding. State reason. Evan slammed the override chip into the panel. Emergency biorescue, engage auto-launch. The ramp closed behind them. The ship lifted off. As they shot into the sky, leaving the planet behind, Leary slowly opened her eyes. I stopped. It, she whispered. You did, Evan said. You beat it. She smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't small, it was real. The stars stretched out like silver rivers as the ship entered deep space. Evan sat in the cockpit, Leary beside him, wrapped in a blanket. Her breathing was steady now. The red glow in her eyes was gone. She looked at peace. But Evan knew it wasn't over, not yet. He uploaded the stolen files into the ship's network. Everything they had pulled from Leary's collar, the crate's database, and the fake agency's chip. Evidence of bioslave labs, of the breeding programs, of what was happening to her kind behind locked doors and fake names. Ready to transmit, the ship's AI said. Target, Galactic OpenNet, uncensored channels. Evan hesitated only for a moment. Then he pressed send. The signal launched like a spark into dry grass. Within hours, systems across 3 sectors saw it. Screens flickered in city towers. Secret files played on public walls. News drones swarmed. Millions watched as the truth unfolded. Footage of helpless girls locked in crates. Lab-grown beings trained to smile and serve. Collars that controlled minds. And then, Leary's face. Her voice. My name is Leary. I was made to obey. But, now, I choose to speak. 2 days later, they landed at a hidden station in neutral space. No flags, no questions. Just silence, safety, and lights dimmed for peace. Leary walked through the halls like someone learning how to breathe for the first time. She wore no collar now. Evan had cut it off in orbit and tossed it into the sun. Outside the ship, crowds waited, but not with weapons, with signs, with holocams, with hands raised in support. Leary's message had sparked a storm. People weren't just angry, they were furious. Protests broke out on colony worlds. Governments demanded answers. The labs began burning their records, trying to hide what they had done, but it was too late. The truth was free, just like her. 3 weeks later, a rescue mission stormed the moon where Leary had been created. What they found was worse than expected. Hundreds of tanks. Growing girls like her, still in liquid, their minds half-built, their fates already written by those who called them units. The tanks were shut down, the labs were seized, and Evan? He didn't stop. He joined the effort, used his skills to hack systems, track ships, expose smugglers who still tried to sell lives in boxes. He became a name in the shadows, the human who broke the collar system. Back on the station, Leary stood at the window watching a new world form in front of her. She was no longer afraid, no longer silent. Evan came up beside her. They say your message made it all the way to the High Council, he said with a smile. She nodded. They asked me to speak there. Will you? Yes, she said. But I won't go alone. Evan raised an eyebrow. Who's going with you? Leary looked at him. Her eyes, bright violet now, full of choice, full of life, met his. You. He smiled softly. You sure? She reached out and took his hand. This time not because she was scared, but because she wanted to. I am. He thought he had saved a smart pet, but in truth he had helped a slave become a voice when, and together they freed an entire species.